Welcome to Tia's Table, where we talk about making fitness and wellness doable for busy women like you and me. Looking for healthy meal ideas, workout motivation, and good conversation? Don't worry, I got you, girl. Sit back, grab a snack, and let's have some girl talk. Hey girl, hey, welcome back to another episode of Tia's Table. I'm Tia, a certified group fitness instructor and nutrition coach. I help women develop healthy habits that align with their health, wellness, and fitness goals. If you or anyone you know is interested in living a healthier lifestyle, feel free to reach out to me. I would love to talk to you about that. You can do that by emailing me at tiavfitness@gmail.com, or you can reach me on Instagram at tiavfitness. We're starting a new challenge in the app on April 1st that is focused primarily on nutrition. For 30 days, we are going to conquer the nutrition thing of it all. Food is so important. How you eat, how much you eat, when you eat, and all of that plays a role into your whole fitness journey. And it is my belief that as soon as women are able to really nail down and master their nutrition journey, the rest of this is just so easy for them. And it really does open up a whole new world for you in terms of what the possibilities are for you in terms of like reaching your goals. You're able to manipulate how you eat to either be in a maintenance phase or to keep maybe losing weight or changing your physique. So many good things come from knowing about food and how your body responds to it. And I want to help you learn that for yourself in a way that is customized towards you in the month of April. So please reach out to me if you're interested in joining the app and that challenge on April the 1st. We're going to talk about menopause today. We're going to get into it. We're going to start it. This is something that I briefly mentioned back in 2024, and we're finally going to get into it. I feel like this is perfect timing. Oprah is also going to be talking about menopause on the 30th, which I think is Sunday. Yeah, I think it's Sunday. Her, Halle Berry, Naomi Watts, and like a couple other people are going to be discussing perimenopause and menopause and today's woman, like how our care has possibly improved, maybe how it still hasn't. We don't know what they're going to cover, but we want to have our own conversation about it here and kind of dive deep into it. I'm going to be using the book, The New Menopause, written by, let me see, the author is Mary Clara Haver. She's also the author of The Galveston Diet. So if you've ever seen that book before, either on Amazon or in a Goodwill somewhere, girl, that's the same woman that wrote this book. So we are going to be dissecting her information and having our own discussion about it. But before we get into that, let's talk about what's on my table right now. You know, I'm still deep in my With Love Megan era. You know, I checked Instagram before I called y'all, and just for a second, let me go down my call list and double check who is all on this particular group chat, group call, because I hear people are adding people to calls these days and not really knowing who all is there. And before I start talking, I want to make sure I know who all is here so that my information doesn't end up in the wrong hands. Because I hear it's a lot of that going on right now. Right? So we're all here. All of us, 92% and friends, we're all in attendance. Okay, great. I'm still really deep in the With Love Megan of it all. And I have been making frittatas ever since I saw her do it on that show, because I had no idea. Number one, that a frittata was so easy to make. Number two, that it was so quick to make. And number three, that low key, if you make a frittata, that's basically an omelet that you don't have to cook every day. She has won me over with that. And before anybody says anything, yes, I know about the little egg muffins that we all used to make way back when. You know, that was like super popular to do. And I know people still do that. They make the little egg cups and it's basically like a little miniature frittata. I get it. I understand it. But there is something about the fact that, number one, a frittata coming out of my cast iron skillet, number one, is just beautiful. First of all. Number two, is less time consuming to make. And number three, I feel as if I prefer that as far as leftovers are concerned. I feel like I prefer that to having all of the little miniature egg cups. I guess because the frittata does not make as many leftovers. So I feel like I'm eating the eggs quicker. I feel like it's just better. I can't really put that into words. For some reason, it's just it's just better. I have been putting all kinds of veggies in my frittatas. I've done tomatoes, zucchini, mushrooms, broccoli, onions, green onions. Like I've run the gamut of everything you can put in there. I have been sprinkling just the tiniest bit of cheese in there. And they have just been so delicious. And my life is forever changed. I feel like I am a weekend frittata girl now, and whatever leftovers we have from my weekend frittata making, I will eat those at least on Monday and Tuesday of the actual school week. Please, if you have not made one, please try. Literally, all you have to do is decide what you want to go in it. Saute that in your pan. I have been using a large cast iron skillet because I really don't know what else. I guess you could use another oven safe pan, but my large cast iron skillet does not stick on the bottom. So that's what I use. But you saute your veggies in your cast iron skillet. And then I do put a little bit of oil or something in the pan just to make sure my pan is greased up so that it doesn't stick. But yeah, you saute whatever you're going to eat. You whisk up those eggs. I use about 6 or 7 eggs, which I know in today's times is kind of are you seriously using that many eggs for one thing? Yes, I am. And honestly, I cannot let the price of eggs steal my joy. Something else will just have to go. And so, yeah, I'm cooking the frittatas. So I use about 6 or 7 eggs. I season them up really, really good, whisk them up really, really good. And then I make mine dairy free, so I'm not putting any cream or milk or anything in there. But certainly if you did that, you would get the fluffier consistency to your egg, a fluffier texture. Then you just pour the eggs into that cool down cast iron skillet. So you saute your veggies, right? You give that cast iron a few minutes to lose some of that heat. Pour those eggs into the cast iron, pop it into your oven, and within 20 minutes, girl, you've gotten yourself a beautiful breakfast, gorgeous breakfast, and it tastes good. And it is something about it that just feels so luxe and so pretty and so soft and just so good. I love it. And I don't know when I will release myself and my family from my frittata era. I don't know. But for right now, it's really got a hold on me, and I love that for us. So that's what I'm eating a lot of right now. The frittata pairs really well with any breakfast protein of your choice. Of course, I love a good chicken sausage. I also like just regular straight up thick cut bacon, but not too much on the bacon. If I have it, I literally eat one piece. I do prefer the chicken sausage just because you get more of it for the same numbers. And then I love a good breakfast potato. I use red skin potatoes, chop those up, season those really well, pop them in the oven. And you should probably pop those in the oven way before you ever start cooking the frittata because the potatoes take forever. Now, of course, you could cook your potatoes on the stovetop. That's not my ministry. That's not what I like to do because I like a set it and forget it so that I can do other things like have coffee while those potatoes are cooking. You could also put the potatoes in your air fryer. That's a much faster cook. But because I am making potatoes for 5 people, I prefer to use a sheet pan, pop them in the oven, cook them. When they're about halfway done, I do the frittata, and in 40 to 45 minutes, we have a full on light brunch type situation. Please, if you have not tried making anything from her show, please try making that. And right before I called you guys, I was on Instagram. This is what I started saying in the beginning. And she posted that she made rosé cupcakes that didn't make the cut of the show for season 1. And I'm like, now she doesn't allow comments on her post, but I'm like, girl, you cannot show us no rosé cupcakes and then not tell us how to make said cupcakes. You literally, because I would have typed that in the comments, but she's not here for what we have to say. So I wrote it on Threads. Hopefully someone that knows her will see it and retweet it or be like, girl, they want that recipe. But I'm like, a rosé cupcake? Absolutely, yes. I'm going to need you to run me that recipe so that I can make that too. I've literally made everything else except for those chicken wings. Then that's just because that's got a million steps. And I can't work that hard for a chicken wing. I feel like chicken wings are our birthright. I feel like by now all of us know how to fry a good chicken wing, and I feel like all of us can fry a good chicken wing without doing that many steps. And I understand it's a tempura crust and it's not your regular, like we fried it right here in Atlanta crust, but I just can't do that many steps. But you know what I can do? I can fry chicken the way that I would fry it because it's quicker and faster. And I would make that sauce and still toss him in his sauce. So there you go with that. But yes, she made rosé cupcakes. We didn't get to see that. So hopefully she will start releasing certain things online or on her socials, because we know season 2 is coming and I don't think those cupcakes are going to be in season 2. I am slightly hoping though that Serena Williams is on season 2. One can only hope. We don't know. Anyway, that's what I'm eating right now and absolutely loving it. And I think it's, worth passing along to everyone. Let's talk about menopause. Now, why are we talking about this now? Why now? Why now? Because I said in 2024 we would do it and then I kind of pushed it to the right. Before I went on my trip, I had a doctor's appointment, and to make a long story short, my doctor was like, when was the last time you had an ultrasound done of like your pelvic region? And I was just like, the last time I had a baby, which my youngest child is 9. And she was like, you've not had any imaging done since then? And I was like, girl, no, that's something people are supposed to be doing. And she was kind of like, yeah. Now this is my first time seeing this doctor because I was referred to her. And so she was like, okay, well, let me go ahead and schedule you with ultrasound. We'll get some imaging done so that like we have a baseline for where you are today. And that way, should anything happen to you in the future, we will know what you originally looked like. And I was like, okay, cool. No problem. So I go, I have the imaging done. I go on my trip. I come back. When I get back, they call me and they're like, oh, yep, we found a fibroid, a fundal fibroid. And we also found a cyst on one of your ovaries. And when she said I had a cyst on my ovaries, I knew exactly where that was because I had been having pain there every month when I would get my period, but it would only last for like a day or so. And I just kind of thought, maybe that's because I'm getting older. I didn't really think that it was anything that I needed to like mention to a doctor or say to a doctor or anything like that. But when she told me it was a cyst and she told me it was on my right ovary, I said, oh yeah, well that must be what that is. And she was like, yes, that's exactly what that is. And so then we talked about treatment options for both the fibroid and the cyst. And she was like, but before we make any decisions, let's have some blood work done to see, if the cyst is showing like any cancer markers or anything like that. I have not gotten the results of my blood work as I'm calling you guys. Like I haven't heard back from them, and I gave my blood about a week ago. So I would like to believe that if it was something alarming, I would have heard from them by now, but we don't know. So I'll update you when I hear back from them. But, yeah, she was like, let's do your blood work and then we'll do another ultrasound 6 weeks from now to see how both the fibroid and the cyst might be growing. And then we will decide like what it is you want to do about any of this. Obviously, she was like, but if your blood work comes back and it's positive for anything, Like, I will tell you what, what we're going to do. But if it comes back and you're negative, these are your options and we will talk about what's best for you. I said, cool. She said, cool. She seems really positive and hopeful. I feel fine. I feel positive and hopeful. So we're just going to keep praying that the good Lord blesses us with good health or the ability to make it through whatever may come my way. And we just going to keep it pushing, right? So, but what she did say to me is, should you end up having to have a hysterectomy, she was like, I just want you to know that will like put you into menopause. And she confirmed for me, based on some of the other exams that I had already had done, she confirmed for me that I was already in perimenopause. She was like, so I show that you're already in perimenopause. If you end up having to have this surgery, you're going to get fast tracked and you will be in menopause. And she was like, so how do you feel about that? And I was like, well, if I had to choose between menopause and cancer, definitely going to choose the menopause. However, because I do feel so good, like I feel great outside of the regular soreness that I get from working out. I'm like, probably need to read up a little bit more on menopause just so that I know exactly what it is that I'm getting into, because I know perimenopause and its symptoms have been different for everybody that I've ever talked to about it. And I want to know what I can expect, worst case scenario, from menopause. But obviously, if I end up having to have surgery, it won't matter because it's my fate. And not for nothing, even if I didn't have to have surgery, at some point I would have to go through menopause. And I don't know. It's probably for the best for me to know a little bit about it before I go through it naturally too. So for a lot of reasons, I will look into that while I wait for this blood work to come back, right? So I remembered that I had bought this book last year and that we were supposed to talk about it. And I was just like, ooh, God has a sense of humor. I will read the book. So I started reading the book, and within the first 3 chapters, I was like, okay, yeah, I'm pretty clear on why things happen to people, because that's what she covers in the first 3 chapters. And I wanted to talk about that today. So this doctor admits, because I think one of the bigger conversations that I've seen taking place online is, why is no one talking about this? Like, why don't people talk about menopause the way maybe they talk about puberty or safe sex or like whatever? They make very big deals out of all of those things, but you really don't hear women, older women in your family or that you're friends with or that just in your community talk about the changes that they go through as older women. And I think that is because, as the doctor so eloquently states within the first 3 chapters of this book, it is because if women in the generations before us were going to the doctor and complaining about having different symptoms or feeling different or whatever, they were literally being told to basically suck it up and deal with it. It's a part of life. Like, there's nothing wrong with you. Go forth and be great, right? And I think because medical professionals weren't taking it seriously, or they weren't really giving it the attention that it deserved, it never became a bigger conversation outside of patient care, right? Meaning that people weren't talking about it on the news. It wasn't something that you would hear people talking about in the beauty salon, nothing like that. This doctor admits that it wasn't until she went through menopause herself that she had like an awakening, like, oh my gosh, like I'm experiencing all these things, and basically she didn't know what to do. Then she said, oh my gosh, this is what my patients have been telling me for decades, and I was literally blowing them off. But now that I've gone through it, or now that she was going through it, she was like, those women weren't crazy. They really needed medical attention, and me and my homies wasn't giving it to them. This is what, paraphrasing, of course, but this is what she says in the book, right? She says in the book that doctors don't even get specialized training for menopause, that when they take their board certification, like when they sit for their exam to become a doctor, nothing on there is about menopause. So while they do learn a lot to become a doctor, while they do obviously have to do like continuing education and they have to keep learning to keep up with advances in medicine and technology and science and all of that, menopause isn't getting any of that attention. Like very little. Very, very, very little. So she says in the book, I'll admit there was a time when I wouldn't have heard them either. But once I went through menopause myself, I got it, which is very troubling to me. Because what that says to me is, oh, it takes your personal doctor, right? Because to my knowledge, I don't know anyone who's being seen by the woman that wrote this book. But it's not maybe until your own doctor goes through something that a light goes off for them and they say, maybe I should start offering more care centered and focused around these symptoms. Or maybe I should sit down and read a couple news journals or medical journals about patients that could possibly be experiencing menopause, what some of those symptoms are, and what are some of the things I can provide to them to help ease the symptoms that they might be experiencing. And she talks about that. But before we get to the solutions, she says the first thing that really signaled to her that she was like, girl, you in danger, is that her sleep started getting messed up, which is something that I hear a lot of women talk about, that they are waking up in the middle of the night. Now, as far as perimenopause goes, I don't think I have experienced a lot of recurring symptoms. I think my hormones did a big shift. And during that big shift, I did experience a lot of symptoms. I don't know if I'm on the other side of my shift or not, but I just know I feel better and I'm doing a whole lot better. But there was probably like a 4 to 6 month time period where I was just like, oh my gosh, everything is crazy and I don't know what's wrong with me. Sleep being one of them. I was waking up in the middle of the night. I was having a hard time falling asleep. I started using melatonin, and melatonin definitely helped me out until it stopped helping me out. And then it was almost like the melatonin started having the opposite effect on me. I would take melatonin, it would put me to sleep instantly. But when the melatonin would wear off in the middle of the night, I would wake up and that was not working for me at all. So then I stopped taking melatonin, but then it seems like as maybe my hormones either leveled out or maybe something about my daytime routine must have gotten better. I don't know, but I just know now I'm sleeping great again. Like I go to sleep at maybe 9:30 and I sleep all the way until that alarm clock goes off at 5:30. And I have been loving that. And when I don't get all of that sleep, I can feel it and I feel like I can see it in my face. But what she says about her own sleep, she said she had tried melatonin, meditation, and proper sleep hygiene, but nothing was working. The loss of sleep made me groggy and fatigued during the day, which made it harder for me to find the energy to exercise and easier to choose less healthy foods. So she talks about how the impact of the lack of sleep made her basically have the brain fog I know I've heard people talk about. And it definitely made her too tired to focus on the stuff that we talk about here all the time, which is working out and eating really well. Because surely if you aren't well rested, you will not have the energy it takes to even think about plating really good meals, or you're just not going to want to take a walk after dinner or on your lunch break if you feel like that 45 minutes would be better served with you maybe catching a nap. And what I would say about that is, yeah, absolutely. If you aren't getting sleep at night, and this is something I tell new moms too. So for people who are still having babies, if your baby is not sleeping all night, you probably shouldn't be trying to work out and do none of the stuff that we talk about on here. Like, don't let the whole snap back thing make you feel like you gotta be working out hard like while your baby is sleeping. Absolutely not. If you're not sleeping all night, you shouldn't be trying to work out because you're burning your body at both ends, and that's just never good. And I would say the same for any other woman who's going through any other type of hormone shift. So if you are in perimenopause or you are going through menopause, there will be days where you feel like your body is saying, oh my gosh, I'm so tired. And you'll know in your mind, you didn't get any sleep the night before. You have to decide for yourself, would I be better served getting some extra sleep right now during the day? Or would it better serve my body to maybe push through that and work out? And only you know that for yourself, which is why after reading this, I really think it might be best for women who know that they might be experiencing stronger symptoms of perimenopause or menopause, or even if you're postmenopausal, that maybe even saying to yourself you're going to work out less days during the week might be something that would help you, because then you would still get the feeling of success knowing you worked out the days that you scheduled yourself for, but you've also scheduled yourself for some downtime and some rest too. Just something to consider. Just something to consider. But yeah, so she goes on to say, she was lucky that she had the ability to self-diagnose and self-treat herself for menopause. I was also fortunate in that I had access to research and medical insight that helped me create a comprehensive approach to my own care. Well, look at that. This included nutritional strategies, exercise, and stress reduction techniques, which again is why it is so important that we start doing these things before our bodies start to win that battle. So the quicker we're able to really dial into nutrition and learn about how our body responds to food, the quicker we're able to agree to some type of fitness routine, whatever that looks like for you. And the more we're able to manage stress, I think the better off we will be based on what I have read so far in this book, right? Those three things seem to be one of the natural ways that she is going to end up talking about managing the symptoms of perimenopause and menopause. She says this book is for you and anyone else seeking a better understanding of the menopausal transition and life after reproduction ends. As your body naturally produces less estrogen, the hallmark of the change, your risk for developing serious medical conditions, including diabetes, dementia, Alzheimer's, osteoporosis, and cardiovascular disease, go up. You may choose to change nothing about your lifestyle or hormonal levels to deal with the risk for these serious conditions, but I firmly believe that you should be fully informed about the range of those risks as well as the options for mitigating them. So, or maybe she said mediating. I don't have on my glasses. I'm sorry. Yes, mediating them. So, she says, put simply, perimenopause and menopause signal significant changes to your health, and you should be able to make an informed choice about the future of it. This book will put that agency in your hands, no one else's. So let's get started with what she talks about. Now, I have highlighted certain passages in here because surely I cannot read the whole book on every podcast call. So we're going to go through chapters 1 through 3 on today's call. And so the first thing that I have highlighted here, it says, if a woman in perimenopause or menopause is not getting top-notch care, it's a matter of life and death, really. Your symptoms, of which dozens, including the well-known hot flashes and the not-so-well-known frozen shoulder, are the direct result of declining estrogen. Estrogen isn't just a pretty hormone that's key to reproductive capabilities. It's responsible for so much more. There are estrogen receptors throughout almost every organ system in your body, and as your levels drop, these cells begin to lose their ability to assist in maintaining your health in other areas, including your heart, cognitive function, bone integrity, and blood sugar balance. So what I know I've read online when women share what they're going through in this particular age group is that sometimes they wonder how all of a sudden they start having an issue with things. Like, why is it that all of a sudden I have a problem with cholesterol? Or all of a sudden my blood sugar is a little wonky? And it is my personal opinion. I am not a doctor. I am literally a nutrition coach and a group fitness instructor who bought this book and I'm reading it, right? So I'm not a doctor, but based on my understanding of what I've read, it's like, oh, it's quite possible that your hormone shift is causing these other issues in your body. And that maybe, of course, if you learn how to manage them as you're going through the hormone change, that there's a possibility that if you do a great job of taking care of yourself, when you get to the other side and you're postmenopausal, that maybe some of these conditions might dissipate. I would akin it to people that dealt with COVID, right? Now, of course, there are the rare and very extreme cases of COVID where people have long COVID and they still are experiencing issues from when they had COVID, when COVID happened. We're not talking about them. We're talking about people that maybe got COVID and after they had COVID, they might have had an issue with something for like a few months or maybe even up to a year. And at some point, they just got better and now their blood work is better. They're not having that same issue anymore. And it seems as if their body just kind of did what it was supposed to do and their immune system kicked in and it helped them and now they're fine. It is my opinion that a lot of women probably experience the same thing with menopause symptoms. It's just unfortunate that you deal with these symptoms for a long time. Like my doctor told me, she was like, oh, you're only 41. She was like, and you're definitely perimenopausal based on what she was reading on her piece of paper. She said, so you could experience symptoms anywhere from whatever you're experiencing now. You could experience that stuff for the next like 10 to 15 years. Like we don't know when you would actually stop getting a period and then you have to not have a period for 12 months in order for you to be like considered like post, right? She was like, you don't know when that would kick in for you. She said, so what you could do is you could just really from today start making sure that you are doing your absolute best to take care of yourself so that as you do move through the continued hormone changes, maybe your body will feel it a lot less. It's not that you would go through it any less, but your body would feel it a lot less, or your body might not respond to the lack of estrogen in the same way that it would in a person who's not taking care of themselves. So then the doctor that's writing this book goes on to talk about the symptoms and how there's such little support for them. And I'm going to read the list of symptoms that they say are most prevalent in women who are either in perimenopause or going through menopause. I'm going to read each and every symptom because if it's any chance that anybody listening to this is going through any of this stuff, I just want to confirm for you that you're not crazy. You hopefully have spoken to your doctor about some of these things and mentioned it to them. And if you have and your doctor has just blown you off, then the next time you talk to your doctor, I would ask them how common it is for somebody who is perimenopausal or menopausal to have X symptom, right? Okay, so the symptoms are as follows. And she makes a note that the symptoms do far exceed the list that she has here, but I guess this is what she felt was, like I said, experienced the most out of patients. They did a focus group for this book too, which we'll talk about that in a minute. So here we go. Acid reflux, acne, alcohol tolerance changes, anxiety, joint pain, arthritis, asthma, autoimmune disease, bloating, body composition changes, belly fat, body odor, brain fog, breast tenderness, brittle nails, burning sensation in the mouth or tongue, chronic fatigue syndrome, crawling skin sensations, decreased desire for sex, dental problems, depression, difficulty concentrating, dizzy spells, dry or itchy eyes, dry mouth, dry skin, eczema, electric shock sensations, fatigue, fibromyalgia, frozen shoulder, genitourinary syndrome, headaches, heart palpitations, high cholesterol, high triglycerides, hot flashes, incontinence, insulin resistance, irritable bowel syndrome, irritability, itchy ears, itchy skin, kidney stones, memory issues, menstrual cycle changes, mental health disorders, migraines, mood changes, muscle aches, night sweats, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, osteoporosis, pain with intercourse, muscle loss, sleep apnea, sleep disturbances, thinning hair on your head, thinning skin, tingling extremities, meaning I think like your foot goes to sleep. And I only point that out because I feel like that happens to me now. TMJ, unwanted hair growth, like whiskers, urinary tract infections, vaginal dryness, vertigo, weight gain, and wrinkles. Now, as I go through that list, I myself can check off things that I feel like I have experienced at least once or twice. Not that they are ongoing problems for me, not that they happen every day, not that they make me miserable, not that they are keeping me from living my life or anything like that. It's just things that are new to me. My foot would never go to sleep the way that it does now. But now if I sit down for too long, especially like if my knee is bent or something like that, my little foot will go to sleep, right? I think the night sweats and the hot flashes are something that we all have heard people talk about. The muscle aches, joint pain. I think some of the more serious issues, though, are things like the kidney stones, like your liver, or you having high cholesterol, like things like that. I would feel as if a doctor saw them or knew about them. If it came up on your lab work, I think it's worth asking your doctor, is it a possibility that this is connected to me going through perimenopause? Or do you think this is something that's like genetic, or is it due to my lifestyle or whatever? And it could be that it's a combination of both. But it will be interesting to me to see how if any, of these symptoms are going to subside in the focus group that she has doing this in this book once their hormone levels kind of flatten back out. So she goes on to say, this is why menopause symptoms may be mistaken for symptoms of other conditions, leading to misdiagnosis, or how it is possible to have more than one cause of similar symptoms, like hyperthyroidism and perimenopause. And I think that's something that all of us can relate to. If you start experiencing something new with your body, you're like, well, do I have diabetes, or is this perimenopause making my blood sugar fluctuate like this? Like which one is it? Because I don't want to be misdiagnosed. And I think that's important because people probably don't want to end up getting their bodies used to a medication that maybe they don't really need to be on, or maybe the dosage of it maybe doesn't need to be as high. If you know there's a possibility that you're only experiencing that while your hormones are fluctuating. Then she goes on to write about the lack of uniformity of the symptoms. Healthcare professionals love uniformity, and menopause is an out-of-the-box nonconformist with highly individualized expression. Though the endocrine changes are relatively similar across individuals, the symptomatic experience can be distinct and diverse. Not all women will experience all of the symptoms I listed, but the majority will experience some. When a person has symptoms can vary too. Menopause symptoms can begin during perimenopause and can last for decades, with an S, as in plural. You might be bombarded by multiple symptoms during perimenopause and reach smooth sailing during postmenopause, or experience the exact opposite. We have a saying in medicine that if it walks like a duck and talks like a duck, it's a duck. Girl, we say that around the way too, but not for the same reasons. Well, what kind of duck is menopause? It depends on the day, on the time of day even, and as growing evidence shows, on a whole lot more. How menopause expresses itself in your body can depend upon genetics, lifestyle factors such as diet, exercise, smoking, and reproductive history, and influences like weight, body mass index, climate, socioeconomic status, and even cultural beliefs and attitudes around menopause, which is interesting to me because I'm like, if menopause is a physical thing that happens in your body, how do attitudes about it affect it? Is this a doctor's way of saying is only as bad as you think it is? So if you're giving it a lot of your energy, or like if you're thinking about it a lot, or if you kind of consume yourself, or even make being perimenopausal or going through menopause your identity, do those people experience it a bit worse? Is that what that means? Someone talk to me about that. Because I'm like, I think all of us share the same attitude about it. And that is, if we could skip it, we would. So what do you mean? What does that mean? I don't know. There is no established one-time blood test that can tell your doctor where exactly you are in the process. A wide variety of changing symptoms means no specific and clear diagnosis for perimenopause. There is also no routine screening of patients. So they do not give you blood work for perimenopause. They do not do any type of screening for it, is what she's saying. They're not trained to do that, nor do they have to do that. I think you yourself have to be an advocate for your health care and request it. In my case, I was going to the doctor it was like a first time visit at that OBGYN office. And just in our conversation, because my doctor is a young Black woman, I think she was like, girl, you've never had this before. Okay, so I'm about to give you all of the exams. And then I'm gonna have you come back and get an ultrasound. And then, on from there. Now we know about the cyst and the fibroid, and I'm in the waiting period. But at that very first appointment, when she gave me that exam, she flat out said to me, literally the color, like the color, the shade of pink that your vagina might be when you are like young and whatever, it loses that vibrant. It's like it gets sad. It becomes like a sadder pink. It's a lighter shade. It's probably not as luminous as it was before, but these are my words, not my doctor's. But she says, like, yeah, women who are going through perimenopause, like they're a completely different shade of pink. Like they just look different down there. And if I'm gonna be 100% transparent with you, that is when she told me, yep, you're definitely perimenopausal. Like as if what was on this piece of paper wasn't enough. Then she kind of confirmed it. She shook her head and she was like, yeah. And I was like, oh, gee, that's great to know. That's great. Thank you for this little bit. And sometimes my life has little bits and pieces of humor, should I choose to see them in that way. And that was definitely a moment where I said to myself, I could not have written a better moment for myself than this. The comedic timing of this was perfect for me. If you're going to talk to me about these things, I'm going to choose to see the funny in all of it. And I giggled to myself when she said it when I was sitting there as she was scanning the paper. She was like, yeah, da-da-da. But then when she saw me, she was like, oh yeah, like it's confirmed. Like, sis, you're not as pink as you probably used to be. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. I was never a pink girl anyway. I was never a pink girl anyway. So, yes, they don't give you an exam for that. You have to literally request it and ask for it because it's something that they don't have to do. There's no standard screening for perimenopause, in part because there's no cure or prevention for what's coming. Menopause cannot be avoided. However, we know that many of the conditions or diseases that are initiated as you enter perimenopause and continue into postmenopause occur as a result of declining levels of estrogen and other sex hormones. Proper screening would not only alleviate symptoms and confusion, but also allow for the implementation of targeted preventative steps that can lengthen both health and lifespan. So now this doctor is kind of advocating for screening. She thinks that should be something that we all get when you go to the doctor once a year for your pap smear. She feels like when you're in there for that, you should be screened, I guess, until it is confirmed that you have started it, which I'm sure that's more of an insurance thing. I'm pretty sure insurance companies just don't want to cover another blood draw or an additional blood screening. Pretty sure that's what that is. But now that I know that with just a good look at you, a doctor can say yay or nay. Of course, not with 100% certainty because there's no blood work to back it up. But now that I know that they can just look at you, girl, during your next exam, ask them if your shade of pink is showing youthful and fruitful, or if it's showing we used to wear pink on Wednesday, and see what they say. Okay, so the inherited belief that a woman's medical issues are solely emotional or psychological in nature has especially strong staying power and contributes to what is today referred to as the gender pain gap. This term describes the confounding reality that while women experience more chronic pain and more chronic conditions than men, their pain is more likely to be minimized and mistreated. If you are a person of color and a woman, you are doubly invisible and even less likely to get your pain treated properly. So in this portion of the book, she admits that she herself, a woman doctor, has treated her women patients differently as far as when they complain about pain. And she admits that she has also treated women of color even worse. So, and her point in admitting that is that if she knows she's doing it, she knows her colleagues are doing it. Like, it is an unspoken thing that they do. Like, they give men what they need to shut them up. But if we come in there, especially Black women, if you come into the doctor's office complaining of pain or whatever, they might tell you, oh, girl, it's just perimenopause. You'll be fine. Like, you'll be fine. You just need to lay down. You just need to let time pass. Right? So then she goes on to say, if she was found to be postmenopausal, again, confirmed by not having had a period in more than 12 months, we might offer menopause hormone therapy and send her on her way. This was prior to the release of the Women's Health Institute did a study, and we're going to talk about that later. If she was transitioning into menopause, well, we offered nothing, insisting she had to go a full year without a period before we could intervene. So what she's saying there is, if a woman did come in complaining about chronic pain or just not feeling her best, something was achy, something was new and different to her body, before they would intervene with any type of hormone replacement therapy or anything they knew would help the onset of menopause symptoms, they still made women wait the full 12 months so that they knew you had gone through menopause before giving you access to that medical care. Even though they know it's a high probability that if you're complaining about these things, and let's say you haven't gotten a period in like 3 months, they would know like, oh, she's probably going through it. They know they can go ahead and start giving you preventative care. But for whatever reason, doctors, at least back then, based on this woman's experience, they just were choosing not to until they knew for a fact you had already gone through it. And now what my common sense tells me, and again, I'm not a doctor, but my common sense would say to me, well, now, if I've gone through it and I've gone 12 months without a period and now I'm on the other side, what would you be giving me like the care for at that moment? And I do understand hormone replacement therapy helps with your lack of estrogen, which will help you out in a lot of other areas. So that I understand, and I can see why a woman would be open to doing it, even though she's postmenopausal. But I'm like, why would y'all make her wait for that, though? Like, if she could be experiencing relief as she's going through it, why would you wait until she's fully depleted to start at ground zero, basically, and helping her build those hormones back up? Wouldn't you think it was a smart thing to do to give her access to either the menopause
hormone replacement because it's a couple different ones you can get, and she talks about them. Why wouldn't you give it to her before she totally empties out? It's kind of like, why don't you ever pump gas before your tank is on E? Like, I know I'm going to get on E. I know that light is going to come on. And I know I could have had the opportunity to put gas in my car well before that. I just chose not to. And it makes it harder on me when I do that. When my gas light comes on, it's like, oh God, now I have to get up early and pump gas before I can go do anything. And that is making it harder on me because I allowed it to go all the way to the point where I'm starting from scratch. I have nowhere to go but to the gas station. Same thing with this. If you see her estrogen levels and her hormones are dropping, why do you wait until she's fully depleted? And then you offer her this hormone replacement, and then her body has to work, in my mind, again, I'm not a doctor, her body has to work twice as hard to build those hormones back up when you could have swooped in and gave it to her well before she was ever at zero, while she was still maybe young, still had the energy and the desire to kind of make lifestyle changes to help her hormones pair well with that therapy and bring her at least to a place that was decent, so that she didn't have to experience such bad symptoms. But again, girl, I don't know. I think that's interesting. So then it says, not many doctors have been taught how to practice medicine when it comes to the matter of menopause. 20% of OBGYN residencies have offered menopause training, but doctors simply have not been pushed into that specialty, which impacts care for all of us. And so then it wraps up chapter 1 saying, one of the subtler reasons that women haven't received proper care for menopause is related to how the medical establishment defines aging as related mostly to chronological age, literally how old you are, instead of also considering a person's endocrinological age. I feel like reading this with no glasses is not the move, but please know I do know how to read. The rate at which our ovaries age is twice as fast as for every other organ system in the body. Did we hear that? The rate at which our ovaries age is twice as fast as for every other organ system in the body. To replace or support the natural hormones that are no longer made by the body, so as to help ensure that the functions initiated and promoted by these hormones are still conducted, they have HRT, which is hormone replacement therapy, or menopausal hormone therapy. And she says she prefers to use the term menopausal hormone therapy, although later on in the book, you'll hear her kind of talk about each one of those. And under each one of those, there are basically different strains of hormones that women can take. And she makes more sense of that as we get into the next chapter. So she says there are other strategies too that can help support your body and mind during the menopausal transition and through to postmenopause. And she's excited to share those with us. So now we know most of this is due to a lack of estrogen, right? Your body starts to produce it less and less. We know that that has a lot to do with your ovaries, and that your ovaries are aging twice as fast as you are, or we are. And we know that doctors really are not here for us complaining about any of this stuff, because they know that there isn't a conclusive test that tells them yes or no. Basically, they have to listen to you, talk about your symptoms. If your doctor is open to even having that kind of conversation with you, they can possibly tell you what you look like during an exam. Or if your doctor is open to running lab work and running the blood work, you can get some type of hormonal lab work done that would still not give your doctor like a 100% yes, because the only thing that gives them the 100% is not getting a period for 12 months, right? But the blood work can show enough to let them know where your hormone levels are at. So, chapter 2, it talks about the complicated past and the confusing nature of menopause treatment. And in chapter 2, she makes a big deal out of the history of menopause. She talks about why we call it menopause. She talks about, what is his name? Hold on. She talks about how in 1923, American chemists Edgar Allen and Edward Doisy would go on to win a Nobel Prize, everyone, for their research on vitamin K. They became the first researchers to do this, and this was a big deal because it was a vitamin that was the primary hormone produced by your ovaries at the time. This hormone was determined to promote actions in the reproductive system related to a woman's cycle. They called it primary ovarian hormone. A few years later, it would become known by the name we all know now as estrogen. The word being a combination of estrus and gen, as in the generation of a monthly cycle. So, now if I'm thinking about this as it relates to my own personal medical situation, that's why right there on my ovary hurts every month. Because every month when that ovary starts working, I get the worst pain for like a day or so. And that makes sense to me. So then she talks about how by 1933, estrogen was actually being manufactured and prescribed under the name Eminin. It was produced first from extracts obtained from placentas, then from the urine of pregnant women, and it was used to treat really bad cramps, really bad periods, and symptoms of menopause. Eventually, it was reformulated from the urine of pregnant mares and was rebranded as Premarin. Now, I don't know if anybody remembers Premarin commercials or ads, but I definitely do, which the FDA first approved in 1942. It's important to note that there are now several hormone therapy options that do not rely on animals for production. She wants to make that note. Premarin's entrance into the hormone therapy arena would mark the start of a several decades-long seesaw of opinion and science related to hormone-based treatment for menopausal symptoms and related conditions. I mean, and now when you go online, you can see supplements and all kinds of things promising that you can find relief from menopause symptoms if you were to take something. And she kind of goes into that slightly before she starts talking about hormone replacement therapy. Now, because that I think is a little bit detailed. Where are we? And we're 57 minutes into this call, girl. Let's put a pin right there. I feel like that's enough for us to digest. And for what it's worth, that's pretty much the end of chapter 2. Getting into some of the details about hormone replacement therapy. And then in chapter 3, which just to be clear, I'm going to go back and talk about hormone replacement therapy when I call you back. But just to get into chapter 3, because chapter 3 was kind of like a conclusion for this before she moves on. But she starts talking about how there is a shift in medicine now. That because a lot of people started speaking up and speaking out and demanding answers from their doctors, the Women's Health Initiative did a whole study on women with menopause. And what they did is they had a big focus group. I think it was about 16,000 people. And they took that focus group. They gave half of them who were, I want to say, in their 60s. Well, all of the people were in their 60s. But they gave half of them a placebo, meaning these people thought that they were taking medicine that would help them find some type of menopausal relief. And then they gave the other group of people actual hormone replacement therapy. And they studied them, I think it was over the course of a year, if I'm not mistaken. and they just kind of saw what happened. What ended up happening was they found that in a small percentage of the people who took actual hormone replacement therapy, their, I don't want to say their chances, but for some of those people, they did end up having an increased risk. There you go. For breast cancer and other cancers related to women. And when that happened, that gave hormone replacement therapy a really bad rep. And then people were kind of like, you shouldn't be doing it. And that became the conversation, which is why a lot of people or a lot of doctors, she says, stop promoting that as a solution for women. But then when they really sat down and did the math, it was only a very small percentage of women that ended up getting that increased risk for breast cancer and some of those other cancers. What she also says was, when you go back and look at the age and some of the other issues that those people were dealing with, she was like, those people were about 65 years old, which means at that time in their life, even if you took menopause out of the picture, that they were at an increased risk of their health starting to decline or fail anyway. So she kind of feels like the focus group wasn't like the best to use for this particular study, right? So she talks about that. She talks about how the whole basis of that really did kind of get us to where we are today, in that people really don't talk about it anymore, except for the rare occurrence of like the Suzanne Summers, because she made a big deal about menopause when she was going through it. And in present day, you have someone like Halle Berry, who's talking about it and really trying to make that a cause that she's championing for women, because she herself is going through it. Now, when she talks to Oprah on Sunday night, I'm going to be interested in hearing about what Halle's symptoms are specifically and how intense they might be for her, because in order for you to make this like your new thing, it must be bad. And I want to hear about that and hear about her story, and to see what kind of care someone like Halle Berry is being given, because as we all know, when you have access to different things, you get treated differently. And that's why she mentioned socioeconomic status as part of, how bad it can be for you. Because, of course, the more money you have, maybe things just won't be so bad. So I'm excited for that on Sunday night. And I'm going through chapter 3 really quick just to see what else we might cover. Because, see, the thing, too, with this is she also goes into the age that she feels is best for people to start hormone replacement therapy. And she talks about the different types as it relates to your age. And it seems as if once you're 60, she kind of feels like it's not worth it for you to try any of this. Which, again, I feel, of course, not being a doctor, that the earlier we start some of the other things that she's talked about in terms of lifestyle changes and the stuff that we talk about here, maybe the better off some of us will be. Also knowing that you're not going to be able to fully escape all of these symptoms anyway. Like that's just what it's going to be. You can eat healthy, you can sleep well, you can work out, you can feel great. And you're still menopause is still going to impact you. Perimenopause is still going to impact you, and you're not going to be able to escape it. Is how you manage it and deal with it, I think, is what we all kind of want answers to. And that is what she gets into in chapter 3. So we will go into detail about the hormone replacement therapy on our next call, and move into part 2 after that. I think it makes more sense to do it that way. Then we'll move into part 2, and part 2 is getting to know more about menopause and the things that our doctors are not telling us. So I'm excited. I'm excited for that. Hopefully we all find this to be very helpful information. Hopefully, as we continue to move through it, it'll answer some of the questions that we have about this whole thing. I know after reading just the first 3 chapters of this book, I know I had already felt like a lot had been cleared up for me, because I feel like it's so much stigma and mystery around menopause and perimenopause, and that just shouldn't be the case, especially now that we all have access to the internet and we have access to each other and the ability to communicate with each other in a way that prior generations just didn't have. So I think they kept a lot to themselves, but we're a chatty bunch. We check to see who is all in the group chat, but once we know it's a safe space, we let it loose and we share things with one another. So here we are sharing our experiences and learning together. And I'm excited to come back and do the second part of this. Before I go, let's talk about my workouts right now. My body is so sore. I have started walking outside again, not on that treadmill, and the hills are alive. My body feels tight. It feels sore. And I have now been reminded why walking outside is really that girl, and it's because it beats me down. So the walking outside, of course, I'm still doing Pilates, and I feel like the combination of those 2 things honestly has been enough, but I'm going to make a very concerted effort to make sure that I still do my strength training with dumbbells twice a week, because I really did like the way that I looked when I was doing that consistently. These past couple of weeks, I haven't been hitting it the way that I would like to, just because I feel like my days are just getting away from me. But once I get back into a rhythm with it, I think I'll be very happy with that. So workouts are going great, and I'm super excited to get back into my rhythm. I'm basically at this point training for my Beyonce concert outfit. I feel like I know what I'm going to wear, and in order for me to wear that and be really comfortable in it, I need to be in shape. So getting back to it, re-entry after a trip is hard. I think re-entry after a trip and then going to all these doctor's appointments was equally as hard, and I'm just going to be happy to get back into my regular routine. To talk a little bit about what's random, but things I want to share. First of all, we watched the 2nd season of Beauty in Black, that mess that's on Netflix, made by Tyler Perry. Just to be completely honest with you, I didn't want to watch it, but my husband was like, we have started it. We've got to see what happens to this. We've got to see what happens to Kimmy. Kimmy just keeps herself in some mess. And would you not know that at the end of this season, they announced that show is coming back? First of all, who other than me is watching this? Why does it keep coming back? That whole season, I felt like was one long episode. Like there was nothing different about any of the episodes. It was the same. And I hope people can understand what I'm saying when I talk about that. Each episode was literally the same. The plot didn't move. There was no climax, nothing. And I said that to my husband. I feel like I just watched the same episode 8 times. But yet, like, here we are. And that family is so nasty. Like, they're so mean. It's not an enjoyable watch. But I guess when Kimmy comes back for the 3rd season, I'm going to have to see what happens. Spoiler alert. Is she going to marry Horace and take over the family business? I don't know, but I would like to see. And then I would like to see what happens with the rest of the people in that family should that happen for Kimmy. But Kimmy has gotten her sister back, which was super important to her. Along the way, Kimmy has killed several people. None of this is realistic. All of it is absolutely insane. The way they talk to each other just disgusts me, but I'll probably watch it when it comes back on because I'm rooting for Kimmy, but I feel like Kimmy is doing the most. The Pit. If you haven't watched The Pit on HBO Max, you're missing out. It's phenomenal medical drama television. It takes you through a shift at a hospital in Pittsburgh where things seem really real you end up really liking all of the characters. I can't sit here and say that there's a character that I don't like. Let me think about that, because that's typically, no. Everybody on that show, because they pretty much do their jobs. It's nothing messy. There's no romantic storyline. I mean, there are undertones of a romantic relationship, but it's not the primary focus of the show. Love that, because I really just am here for the medicine and the surgeries and the accidents and the craziness. Like I'm here for the hospital drama, not so much people's personal lives. So if you've not seen The Pitt, definitely tune in. Unlike Beauty in Black, every single episode of that show, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe that happened. I have gotten back into my guitar lessons. I'm learning chords, and the chords sound great. At this point, I'm just trying to learn how to allow the chords to flow together. You have to move your fingers on the guitar in such a way that I feel like the only way that I'll get better at doing that is through muscle memory with my fingers. So that makes me happy, because that means pretty soon here I should be able to play at least one song, because I know enough chords. I just have to learn how to let the chords seamlessly flow together. And I'm not really even close. I'm not even going to lie to you. I'm nowhere near being there at that point, but at least I do know the chords and I can play them. So there's that. I am currently on the hunt for more Lodge cookware. I would really love to get it at a deal at like Home Goods or Marshalls or TJ Maxx. So if anybody is ever in any of those stores and you see some Lodge cookware, please let me know. The other week, I saw a really blush pink cast iron brazier. But when I opened it and I looked at the bottom, the enamel on the bottom looked a little worn, which I know it gets that way as you cook. But I'm like, if I buy it out of the store and it already looks like that, I have nowhere to go. Like that, yeah. So I did not buy that piece, even though it was a really pretty color. And to be honest with you, the Lodge cookware, the enamel pieces that I've gotten all of those from like Home Goods, Marshalls, or TJ Maxx. My actual cast iron cookware, which is like the black cast iron skillets that everybody knows about, my mom has actually gotten me all of those. And I have a cast iron skillet in every size. I've got the large ones, the medium-sized ones, the tiny ones, the little flat skillet ones that you do pancakes on. I've got a flat grill top that's double-sided. One side is got the grill marks on it, and the other side is just like a flat cooktop. Like, I'm all set on the Black Lodge cast iron stuff. I want to get more of the pretty enamel coated like Dutch ovens, braziers, and stuff like that. And right now, the enamel pieces that I have are like a light pearly gray, but I'm not married or committed to one color. So if you're out and you should happen to see things, feel free to share those things with me, and I will get in my car and I will go over to the store to see if my local Home Goods, TJ Maxx, or Marshalls has any of that stuff. The pollen is out here in Atlanta, and yesterday after I took my walk, I immediately had to come inside and take a shower, because I'm like, ick is that time of year where you will be coated in pollen anytime you set foot outside. Like, it's all over our cars. I've been making the kids take Zyrtec before they go to school. It's really bad. Our whole back porch is covered in pollen, and it's screened in. But I went out there this morning because that's where I've been keeping my garden, my little plant babies. They're out there, and I went out there this morning and misted them with water to try to wash some of the pollen off. And I was amazed at how much pollen each little leaf was holding on to, which is just a friendly reminder that when you bring that food, like, 'cause sometimes I see people picking, like on social media, I see them picking their food from their gardens, and then they like bite it in a video. And I'm like, no, you should probably rinse that off first. Because if you live here like I do, it's probably a year's worth of pollen on that stuff. I mean, I guess if it rains, it washes it off. But yeah, no, you should probably always rinse it off. Next up on my list of things to watch, I'm going to watch The Residents, and I'm going to go back to Paradise on Hulu. I watched the first 3 episodes and then got distracted with other things and never made my way back to it. So I'm going to go back and see what Sterling K. Brown is doing on Paradise. I'm going to finish that up, and I'm going to watch The Residents. That is a show that is also on Netflix, and if I'm not mistaken, that's a Shonda Rhimes show. I just know that Beth from This Is Us is on that show, and the lady from Orange is the New Black, whose face I see in my mind, but her name is escaping me. She's on there too, and it's supposed to be really good. I think it's like a murder mystery type show, but people say great things about it, so I'm gonna watch that as well. Those are next up for me. But I think that's it for today. If you have any questions or if you need me to go back and pull anything out of chapters 1 through 3, you let me know. On the next call, we will get into hormone replacement therapy, menopause, hormone therapy, the different strains of it. And then we'll get into the next part of the book where she talks about the things that our doctors are not telling us about the therapy or about menopause in general. And I cannot wait to share that with you. Remember, when you're out, say something nice to somebody, make another woman's day, compliment her, be a friend. Girl, be nice, be nice, be nice. Don't compete, don't compare, don't complain. What God has for you is for you, and never knock another woman's hustle. I will talk to you next time. Love you, girl. Bye.